This is the San Francisco 49ers Report. I'm Chase Sr. Thank you so much for watching today's show here on YouTube. So many great content creators out there. So anytime you decide to hang out here with me, I do appreciate that. Coming up on the rundown, we're taking some questions, opening up the floor, and chopping it up with some real ones, people who subscribe to the show. So be sure to hit that subscribe button for videos like this and daily coverage of the Niners, but also so that you can join us for our watch parties. We go live every single Niners game right here on this channel. It's the best place to experience a Niners game day outside of being at the actual venue. We will be live for Sunday Night Football. Niners, Bills, snow is in the forecast. It should get interesting. I-Man Report with a $6 super chat. My three choices for defensive coordinator. Number 1, Robert Saleh. Number 2, Jeff Ulbrich. Number 3, Dennis Allen. All really good options. This week here on the show, you can take a look at the videos on the channel. I've talked a lot about bringing Robert Saleh back. The New York Jets, under his defensive tutelage, were a top 5 defensive unit in football. I think this Niners sideline has been lifeless, lacking juice, and I think that Robert Saleh would be able to inject that into this organization. And then this Niners defense, bad against the run, bad against the pass, not consistent, choking away games late. They've had schematic and coverage breakdowns. They missed 19 tackles against the Green Bay Packers. Missed tackles have been an issue all year for San Francisco. I don't think that happens with Robert Saleh. Jeff Ulbrich is an interesting name. Kyle Shanahan tried to hire him and poach him away from the Jets this offseason. He was the defensive coordinator under Robert Saleh. The defensive numbers for the Jets have not been good with him being the head coach. I just think it's more because he's not a head coach and he's not calling plays. Dennis Allen is a very interesting name. The former Saints head coach, former Raiders head coach from several years ago. He's not a head coach in this league. He's a really good defensive coordinator, though. And under Sean Payton, he was one of the NFL's best defensive coordinators. He throttled those Tom Brady Buccaneers offenses time and time again, and he's a really good defensive mind. And that's a guy who is never going to be a head coach again. That's 2 failed stints. Kyle Shanahan needs his long-term defensive coordinator. Been too many changes at DC. Saleh leaves, D'Amico leaves, you fire Steve Wilks. You should move on from Nick Sorensen. You need some continuity within your coaching staff. Victor, why does it seem like the Niners are riddled with injuries every year? Is it the way that they train, the way that they play, or is it just bad luck? Of note, the Niners do have a new head athletic trainer this year. Their old trainer moved to the NBA to work for the Atlanta Hawks. I don't really think that's a massive reason. I think there are a few reasons. Every year since Kyle Shanahan was hired in 2017, they've been top 10 in injury rate. They're on their way to achieving that dubious mark once again in 2024. Last year, though, they were the 4th healthiest team in the NFL. They made it to a Super Bowl. They've played a lot of football the last 5 years, going to 4 NFC titles and 2 Super Bowls. They're also a very physical football team. They run a lot offensively. They have players who thrive after contact, not this year, but usually. And then defensively, they fly around and they play smash mouth football. So I think all of those are contributing factors for why the Niners have been banged up. Smoke 8, $10 super chat. Who should the Niners target in this upcoming draft? I'll tell you what, I love watching college football, but I haven't really done draft research to the point where I'm grinding the tape because I'm in the heart of the football season. I will give you some positions of need. And let me go in order here. I think the Niners, going into the draft, going into the offseason, free agency included, they need to get a new right tackle. They need to get another edge rusher. So those are the top 2 most important positions for me. Outside of that, I think they need a new center, a new left guard. They need some defensive tackle help. Those are the positions that are glaring weaknesses for me. On the periphery, they need a tight end too. They need linebacker depth. They need another corner and maybe another safety. Outside of that, I think they're in a good spot. I think at wide receiver, there are so many good ones in the draft each year where if a good one falls to you, maybe you take that wide out to help your offense and you let Deebo Samuel go. Today's 49ers Report, sponsored by Prize Picks. Daily fantasy sports made easy. You pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you can win some big-time money. In fact, up to 100 times your money. It's Daily Fantasy Sports made easy. This is the largest independently run daily fantasy sports app in North America. More than 10 million active members, billions of dollars handed out in awarded winnings, and right now you get $50 when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. I also love the specials that Prize Picks offers. For instance, on Thanksgiving, Tyreek Hill, free square here. If he gets 1 yard and you pick more than a half receiving yard, that is one easy win. Run your game with Prize Picks. Pick more, pick less, pick Prize Picks. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. We'll put that link down below in the comment section and in the description of today's show. D. Ellington, can we talk about the decline of Christian McCaffrey and not using Jordan Mason? Music to my ears, man. I really don't get it. I know that Kyle Shanahan is very loyal to a player like Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey, for the last year and a half up until this year, has been one of the most, if not the most valuable skill position players in the National Football League. Last year, he had one of the best seasons that you will ever see from an offensive skill player, Offensive Player of the Year, top 5 in MVP voting, more than 2,000 all-purpose yards. He plays the game in a way where he never wants to come off the field. He's a threat running it. He's a threat receiving it. He's a great pass protector. And think about the household that he grew up in. His dad, Ed McCaffrey, an all-pro Super Bowl champion. Kyle Shanahan grew up with Ed McCaffrey because his dad, Mike Shanahan, was coaching Denver. And so he's been around Christian for a very long time, and Christian's a very special player. But this year here in 2024, Christian McCaffrey's not the same guy. Doesn't have the same burst, doesn't have the same explosion, the same speed, the same decisiveness, the same vision, the same bounce. It's almost like he's coming off bilateral Achilles tendonitis. And for Kyle Shanahan to not manage his workload more, to give him carries like he's the McCaffrey of last year, it is game managing, play calling, malpractice. Jordan Mason got 1 carry last week against Green Bay, and he ran for 16 yards, and then he comes off the field. Jordan Mason has 12 carries in his last 4 games. Jordan Mason is averaging 5.1 yards per carry this year. He has more than 700 rushing yards, and he can't sniff the field. It's infuriating, D. Ellington. Jay Menino, why not hire Richard Sherman as the defensive coordinator? Look, I think a big issue with hiring Nick Sorensen as defensive coordinator, no experience. And the inexperience shows. It shows with communication problems, with scheme breakdowns, with not putting players in a position to succeed, with this defense not being confident, with this defense not being able to tackle, with these veteran players having porous years, with you letting teams dog walk you at the end of games and march right down the field and losing 3 games inside 2 minutes defensively against divisional opponents. And a big reason for that, Nick Sorensen has no play calling experience on the defensive side of the football, nor does Richard Sherman. So I'm going with the defensive coordinator who has play calling experience, not with Richard Sherman. If you want to bring him in as an assistant and groom him over the next couple of years, I'm down with that. Not as a DC, though, right off the jump. Robbie V, 88. Where is Brandon Staley, and what exactly is his role? Why hasn't he shoved Sorensen out the door? You know, I don't know if this is correlated, but Brandon Staley's Chargers teams lost a lot of games late, and the Niners are doing that defensively. He's the assistant head coach for San Francisco. He's helping on the defensive side of the ball. I think he's a pretty bright defensive mind. When Sean McVay makes you a defensive coordinator, and when you are a really good defensive coordinator, albeit in a COVID season in 2020 under McVay, I do think that that's pretty impressive. It's of note. I'm not sure exactly what he does or if he has his fingerprints on this defense. He was 24-25 as a head coach with Los Angeles. We'll see if the Niners bring him back if they fire Nick Sorensen. But, yeah, he's the assistant head coach and helping out on the defensive side of the football. Ernesto Ojeda, last one. What would it take to pull an upset in Buffalo under snowy conditions? Play a perfect game, You can't miss 19 tackles. You can't commit 9 penalties for 77 yards. You can't turn the ball over. Niners turn it over 3 times. They committed 9 penalties for 77 yards. They didn't play a clean game. Buffalo has experience playing in the snow. The Niners are from Northern California. They don't. What will it also take? Kyle Shanahan getting his head out of his butt and starting Joshua Dobbs over Brandon Allen if Brock Purdy can't play. If it's snowing and Brandon Allen, who is a statue with no mobility, is playing, I will lose it. Because you got to go with the mobile quarterback. You just have to. It just gives you more creativity, more flexibility, more leniency, more options offensively because he can run around. Brandon Allen cannot. We saw that when he was slipping and fumbling multiple occasions against Green Bay. My gosh, that was brutal to watch. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. Thanks for your continued support of the show. Always like chopping it up with the faithful.